Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's Rowan here. I'm back with another video. This time I'm joined by my homie Joe, the Arc God himself. I mean, look at this guy. He's so happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. We're gonna have a great video. So Joe, introduce yourself.
I'm Joe Turrentine. I've been playing this game for quite a long time. Have like a couple notable accomplishments, no top eights or nothing. We're working on that. But yeah, I played ArcGigas to Charlotte and Portland. Shout out Makani and Nathan for coming up with the original idea and me just piggybacking off of it because I like Arceus. But you
S-
know,
Did you guys all work together, or did you just kind of?
well, so originally it was their idea. They wouldn't give me the list for San Antonio,
Right.
right? They kept it super under wraps. Connie didn't day two. Nathan and Matthew Stratford, both the Stratfords, made top 64 with it. And then so we ran it back in Portland and they gave me the updated list and I changed
Mm.
a couple cards. But they built the list. I'm not gonna take no credit for it. Gigas wasn't my idea, but I love Gigas. So
Okay, cool. So, I ask you this all the time. Did you ever get to use ArcGigas Vstar power?
I did this weekend.
No!
I I got to use it this weekend. I was playing against a Guardy player and I couldn't get Starbirth because I was constantly pathing. So the last turn of the game, they had double Guardy EX on board, and I got rid of one of them and killed the other.
Oh my gosh. And it won you the
Uh,
game?
yeah, it won me the game. Yeah,
That's awesome. Okay, cool.
yeah.
So let's just start. Let's talk about the Portland list first then, because it was a little different. That list had Zacian V, Psychic Energies, a Mew EX. What was the idea behind all those cards? What were they doing in that deck?
Okay, so with the Portland list, it was pretty close to the San Antonio list.
Okay.
The idea with the Zacian was that if you whiff turn one energy, you were guaranteed to get it with Zacian. So basically, never whiffing turn one energy. But we kind of ran into a problem, or at least I did, where the matchups you want to use Zacian are the matchups like Maridon or Moon,
Hmm.
where they're going to be taking that first prize card anyway. And those matchups you want to put Path down going first anyway. So using Zacian isn't even an option.
Hmm.
Um, so I decided to cut that, but Mew EX was really good in Portland. It gave a free retreat pivot that was really nice. And also against Tina, you could go Raihan, attach DTE, grab belt off the Raihan
Hmm.
to take a knockout back after a Tina has, lost
Lost
impacted or
already.
whatever.
Yeah,
Um, the other differences from this list to the my list that I played in um, Charlotte, the Radiant Alakazam was cut. That was also cut from Connie's list. It just didn't do enough overall. I think the only time I ever used Radiant Alakazam was against the one Guardy that I played um, in Portland, and I also used it against Goldango
against.
because because Goldango, the Goldango that I played round one had Melodic. So
Yeah.
they just like had like this huge hand I couldn't get rid of. So I just mind rulered and killed a Goldango. Um,
Nice.
so like it just overall wasn't really worth it. So from that list we cut the Alakazam and we cut the Mew and we put in and we also cut Zacian. We put in fourth path, second V guard energy to go up to 14 energies, which felt a lot nicer. And I played second judge no Raihan because playing the higher energy count felt like I wasn't going to miss it. And if I did miss it, I was probably going to lose anyway, even with Raihan. So
Yeah,
it
like if
just,
your Arceus dies on turn one, you're in a rough spot with or without an
yeah,
energy, right? Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So running the Raihan just kind of felt useless because I wasn't getting myself back into the game with that. I was just extending game one because I probably had already lost.
Yeah, that's smart actually. And so then you also in your new list play six random different energies. Is there any thought process behind that, or is that just like, are you losing your mind? Like,
We were in the Airbnb night before the tournament. And Connie and Nathan had sent me the new list that they worked on with Connor Chipetta. And that was the full face guard list that I ended up playing that they did not end up playing, actually. They sent me the full face guards, and there was no Zacian in it, but there was a Yveltal from Celebrations.
okay,
And the logic was that you were going to be able to put down Tomb, and against Fusion Mew, you could get rid of the fusion energies, and because Fusion Mew is like inherently just a bad matchup. DTE Mew is a very super winnable matchup, even if they play the double fusion with the Lisas.
Yeah.
Because Path, Boss, and 280 HP Pokemon are really hard for Mew to deal with. But Fusion Mew doesn't care. They kill your Arceus turn 1, and you just kind of struggle from there. So the logic was if you played Yveltal, you could get rid of the fusion's energies, and you could put them in a position where they're not going to be able to do anything for the rest of the game. But shout out Dre from the Shuffle Squad for coming over and absolutely wiping me night before.
Yo, Arceus.
Yeah, Dre Oxus came over, absolutely wiped me. It was like, this card sucks. Don't play this card. And I was like, okay. So I had already decided that I wasn't going to play Zacian. So at the point, I was like, all right, so literally the only Pokemon in my deck is a 4-3 Arc line and a 1-1 Gigas line that's attacking.
Yeah.
Right? So Eli Greenfield looks at me and he goes, just play 6 different colored energies. I was like, okay. So he hands me 6 different color energies and he's like, here's Rainbow Arceus. And it's a good way to credit, because every tournament I've ever played Arceus, I've played my Rainbow Rare Arceuses. Yeah. But I didn't bring them because I wasn't going to play Arceus to this event. So it was a good way to credit it back.
You still got to play the Rainbow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I still got to play the Rainbow. You know what I mean?
So something I was wondering, like people are talking about kind of lying online and everyone's talking about like the Pokestats thing, right? Do you think there's any merit to like all these energies maybe confusing your opponents? Like, do you think your opponents ever played around a card that like didn't exist, or did you ever think that was happening?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, there's the this actually happened against the Roaring Moon player that I played against in day 2. They had played the ArcGigas. They had played ArcGigas round 1. I don't know who they played against or whatever, but they beat them. Right. And they drew really poorly, and they kept choosing to go second, which the optimal line against the Arc matchup is to go first, because if Arc gets to go first and pass you, then you actually have like a serious problem of getting out of it. Where they were choosing to go second against me because they wanted to donk the Arceus, but I was allowed to put down Path because they only played 3 Path and I played 4.
Yeah.
So I was started.
They played 3 Path?
Yeah, the original list from Portland only played 3 Path.
Right. And you play 4.
Right. So the 4th Path came into my hand a lot more often than the 3rd Path did.
Yeah.
So I just started Path in both games, and I 2-0'd the Roaring Moon player. Nice. But on the Pokestats topic, I don't really care. I mean, like I don't think it gives enough of a competitive advantage for everybody to be freaking out about it. But I don't know. I'm just an Arc player, bro. I just attach energy pass.
Just here to have some fun and have some laughs.
I'm attaching the energy whether or not I go first or second or not. You can choose. It doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh. I definitely would have been hella confused playing against you, man. I would have had no idea. Did you ever just tell your opponents, though? Were you ever just like, I got 6 energies for fun, man. Don't worry.
I did round 9. So round 9, I played against a Charizard player. And my opening hand was Arc V. I went first, was Arc V Grass Energy. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, like, against a Zard player, they're going to start freaking out.
Yeah, right?
Right. And so this is like witted for 7-1-1 or whatever to go into day 2. And so I was already locked at 6-1-1. So we just played out. And I attached Grass Energy, and I saw his entire body start shaking because he had no idea what I had in my deck. And then I Trinity Nova attach Water, Fire, Electric to Gigas, and he just looks at me and he goes, I have no idea what's going on. There's a crowd of people around me watching me, and as I attach these energies, they're all just looking at me so confused. It doesn't make it better that I'm using a Zen container as my dice case. So I opened the Zen container to put dice on, and I used the lid of it as a Vstar marker. So I looked at, like, this whole situation just looked like I was the biggest troll known to man going 7-1-1 with this Arceus.
Yo, you are the biggest troll. You were the biggest troll in day 2.
Dude, it's fine. I got 13th.
Did you... Actually, no, did you play a Fairy Energy? Can you play Fairy Energy?
I was trying to look it up, because if I could have played Fairy Energy, I would have played 6 of them. I wouldn't have played the rainbow energies. If I could have played fairy energies, I 100% would have played all 6
Yeah,
fairy energies.
that would have been funny.
But I don't know if I was allowed because I think the energy rotates. I don't know.
I have no
If
idea. I have no idea.
because I think if like they don't print new energies, they rotate. But maybe fairy energy is still legal and I threw. Maybe that was the play.
Yeah, that would have been really. Then people would have been really confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, oh, one more thing I gotta ask you about the full face guards. What? I see those. I see the gold full face guards on your desk there. Are those the ones you played in Charlotte?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So how were those? I mean, they reduce 20 damage if you don't have an ability. So obviously you need to
Yeah.
have a path to the peak in play to put it on your Arceus. But what were those for? And were they good?
So in Charlotte, I actually only played one Tina the entire tournament, and it was
Oh.
winning into top 8.
Hmm.
And yeah, the full face guards actually were kind of bad,
Oh.
but where they came in clutch was against Maridon and Moon. Because what I was getting hands with them in my opening hand, and so Maridon, if you attach it to your active arc, Arc V doesn't have an ability, right? So what was happening was I was attaching full face guard to Arc V, and my opponent wasn't able to take the turn 1 knockout because they would only hit me for 200 and nothing in their deck can hit the 220.
Yeah.
So they could try to find the 1-up vacuum, but if they're going to peony for vacuum at that like early in the game, they're not going to get to a point where like they get the knockout with Maridon, right? So it did come in clutch in that matchup, and then against Moon, having the full face guard means that they had to use the second attack to kill it because they wouldn't have enough, like it wouldn't do enough damage. So like getting into a position where you can like turn 2 boss the other Moon and smack into that one, so that way they put themselves in a position where it knocks it out either way,
Mm.
was pretty nice. But overall, the Tina matchup, it didn't matter because against Vinny, round 8, congrats, by the way, for winning. Should have been me. Just kidding. But when I played against Vinny, it didn't matter what my deck had in it because I started Arc V and I played 4 Ionos. And before I saw Arc Vstar, I had played 4 Ionos.
Oh.
So I went through every draw supporter in my deck before I saw an Arc Vstar. So it didn't really matter. Vinny just kind of kept looking at me going, when is this deck gonna work? And it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And then game 2 was a little closer, but I didn't see Arc Vstar till like turn 4. I just drew pretty poorly against him. But yeah. Overall, I think the matchup is like okay. In Portland, I only played 1 V guard and I went 5-1-1 against it. This version of the list plays double V guard, double full face guard. So I would assume that you're going to see V guards more often. You're going to see the full face guards, which puts them in a worse position. So I'd say on paper the matchup's probably like a little bit favored if you draw Arc Vstar. But since I didn't actually acquire any of those, I don't think I ran them round 15. Somebody took them out of my deck.
And the prizes.
I didn't prize any. I didn't prize any. I just couldn't find it. I didn't prize an Ultra Ball or an Arc V-Star. And I just literally sat there Ionoing and didn't find one.
Yeah.
But I'd say that the way Vinny played it was probably a little bit better. He utilized Greninja really early in the game to kind of pop both of the full face guards and the V guards off, which was like fine. But at that point, it didn't really matter because like I hadn't had Arc V-Star, but he kind of already knew what was in my deck. Somebody had already probably mentioned it to him. So putting 90-90 on both the arcs just means that Tina can go into it. But
That's really smart, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it was super smart. Yeah. So he played that matchup really well, even though I didn't draw very well. So congrats. But I think that overall against most Tina players that aren't like, I would say consistently top 18 or top 16 or 32, I'd say a lot of them miss little lines that you can capitalize on as an arc player. Also, the turn after they start, after they come up and they go Abyss Seeking, if you play Judge, that kind of hurts them a lot because they basically just wasted their turn on Abyss Seeking. So you're able to smack into the Tina first before they get to smack into you, which is like a big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think the Tina matchup is like probably closer to 50-50 if piloted by a good player, but if not, I think Arc has a slight advantage with double V guard. And if you're playing the full face guards again, like if you take my list and then play it to another tournament, I think your Tina matchup is going to be overwhelming, like over fine.
Yeah.
Probably, I'd say probably maybe like 55-45 favorite Arc.
Especially because I don't think most Tinas test games against full face
Arceus.
guard,
Yeah,
Arceus. Yeah, I don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the whole thing about the deck, and like that's like why Arceus is able to do well, keep consistently getting top 16s or top 8s right now is because nobody actually is like looking at the deck and going, "This is like a real deck that's a threat, and we need to test against it," right? But man, what do you do when you get a Gigas jet energied into the active with 350 HP because it has a V guard and a full face guard attached to it? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do? Like like
You fold.
you have to respond to it. That's not an option. You know what I mean? So like the deck is real. Unfortunately, it's real, and I know Rowan will not agree in any way, shape, or form.
I
But
I can't disagree with the results though. I mean, it can't be terrible.
it's not terrible. It's definitely a deck of all time. That's for sure.
Yeah, I remember when you came up to me after like round 8 or 9, you're like, "My deck's broken. It loses to nothing." I was like, okay."
I beat 2 Guardy this weekend. I
Yeah,
did.
and the Guardy matchup is like not that
It's
good, right?
awful.
It's
It's
awful.
awful. So I think Nathan and Connie are coping a little bit with the Guardy matchup. And I think that I was getting very, very lucky against the Guardy matchups. Because day one I hit Guardy and they were playing like Drift Bloom with like hard charms or like bravery charms or whatever.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like they put 100 on it and it one shots everything. But every turn that they did that, I drew into a lost vacuum, so I could just lost vacuum away that and boss up a Curlia. So
Mhm.
like I was able to punish them pretty hard for that. And then day two, the games were really, really close. I think the games get really close simply because it feels like if Arc is at 3 prizes ahead, the game is 50-50, right? But if Guardy can take a prize when Arc is at 2, right? Then it's a very losable game for Arc because you now have to trade 1 and then they trade 2 back and then you have to trade 1, right? So
Yeah.
but if you go to 3 before they get a prize card, which is what happened in my match because I just kept putting path down. And they eventually had to dig through their entire deck to find all of their path outs. And then I put the last one down and they didn't have a path out. Um, then it's fine, but I don't want to hit Guardy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I would like to just walk around Guardy, and if I do hit one, then I would like to judge path my way through it and
Hmm.
then pray.
You know,
But
that's
I
not.
will say that I've never lost to a Guardy playing Arceus
Oh,
at any regional I've ever played Arceus at.
yo, you're the Arc Demon. So is Guardy the worst matchup then, or is there a worse matchup than Guardy? Or other than Fusion Mew, I guess that's also bad.
I would say that okay, so Fusion Mew is like I wouldn't say it's like terrible because like Fusion Mew still inherently has the same problems that DTE Mew does, where like
Hmm.
Judge Path Spiritomb is still like an actual problem. You know what I mean? Like getting rid of Path and still getting to the Elisa Sparkle. But I'd say that the problem with the Fusion Mew mashup is that like they can take the turn one knockout, so you don't have time to set up your board. So I'd say that it's a little bit unfavored, but you can still beat it. Um, but the worst matchup on board, in my opinion, is Roaring Moon.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
and it's because Roaring Moon is so aggressive early that I honestly think that Roaring Moon gets to turn one attack way more consistently than Miraidon does. Like
Okay.
overall, I think Miraidon is based on chance, whereas if you draw the right cards with Roaring Moon, you're attacking turn one, right? So that's like the bigger threat is the fact that the second attack on Roaring Moon literally just removes your guy. Like it doesn't even matter. So like if they get the first two, you now have to trade back with them. But every turn they can trade back because that's all that like they don't care if they go down to 30 HP, right?
No.
So because you can only take 2 prizes on the turnaround. So you actually have to set up Gigas in that matchup to be able to boss around it so that way you like you go to sudden death and you have to path them in sudden death. Like it's that matchup is so bad. I personally do not want to hit another Roaring Moon playing Arceus ever again. But I'd say that Guardian Roaring Moon are probably the worst matchups. And I did not expect going into this tournament for Roaring Moon to have a 10% conversion rate into day 2. So, I got lucky only hitting 1 in day 2.
I think the conversion rate was even higher, wasn't it? I think the day 2 meta share it was 10%, and its conversion rate was like 20% or something ridiculous. Yeah. Anyways, I played Mew, so I wasn't expecting it to be that good either. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So then some of the other matchups, I mean, we've kind of talked about it a bit already, but the Miraidon matchup, is this one you feel pretty confident in or sketched?
I feel okay. So if you guys watched on stream, it doesn't look like I feel very confident against Miraidon. But I also didn't see Vstar, so that's fine. But the Miraidon matchup is really weird because past turn 2 of Miraidon, like Judge Path actually hurts a lot more than you think it does against the new version of Miraidon because Peony is basically now limited to getting you 1 generator plus path out, right? So when they want to go do the Raichu turn, if they want to get Beach Court to retreat, they have to grab 1 generator. And if they don't grab the stadium, then they're peoning their hand to 0, and then they're not having Mew to draw back up. So you're able to really punish them for taking that turn 1 knockout with Iono Path, like really, really quickly. And they have to get Raichu turn 2, right? And the deck that is built to get that, like, it's not necessarily built to get that underpath, it's built to get those big energy turns on turns that you can get Beach Court down and you can, switch pivot into all of that stuff. So throwing like Gigas in the active with a V-Guard, making them have to get rid of 6 energies to kill it with Raichu is like a big deal. And the matchup feels actually way better than I thought it did playing Arc in Portland. I feel pretty confident with that matchup. I'd say it's probably slightly favored for Arceus actually, which is really weird.
Yeah, I could see it though. Your Pokemon have a lot of HP. Like if they can't pull off 2 Raichus, like you play Sharon's Care, how do they actually take proper knockouts, right?
Yeah, they have to hit 2 Raichus, which means that every single generator in their deck has to hit, right?
Yeah.
Which is like super unlikely, and like if they get it like that. You know what I mean? That's like the whole point of playing Miraidon, but
Okay. Cool.
They most of the time they don't get it like that. But for matchup spreads, playing the Arc deck, I think Zard is super favorable. Which like a lot of people don't really understand that like Zard is like super favorable. You just kind of like don't take prizes and you play 4 boss. So like you kind of just set their board up to where like you smack a Zard, boss a Zard, smack a Zard. You know what I mean? And then you take 2 prizes on the Rotom. And then from that point, they come up and they smack you for not enough damage, right? And then you just go smack, they kill you, and then you smack the last Zard on board. Also, Judge Path is really good against that deck. And what's crazy is I play Spiritomb, and everybody always tells me to put the Spiritomb down against the Zard player, but I never put it down because I wanted them to bench the Rotom. I wanted them to bench the Rotom and draw 3, so that way when I Judge Path them the next turn, the Rotom was stuck on board and basically did nothing for them. And if they use their Forest Sealstone on the Rotom, then they have 1 less out to get out of the path, and you also run double vacuum. So if they preemptively attached it, you could possibly get to the vacuum to get rid of the stone, which puts you in a way better position. I'm super confident in the Zard matchup. It feels really good.
Yeah, it does seem good. You also have Sharon's Care, so like when you're trading for 180, 180, 180, and you just get to completely remove their turns, you definitely get ahead. Yeah, that one seems pretty good. What about, I mean, we saw the Gumilla brothers. They were playing Golden Go this weekend. Did you play against any Golden Goes?
I did in Portland. I didn't play any Golden Go here, okay? In Portland, I played against Goldengo, and I was able to win. But that matchup is terrifying.
It's just like Roaring Moon, right? They just one-shot you.
Just like, you have to Judge Path them so much, and you have to just hope that they whiff a turn. the matchup was okay when we played Box of Disaster, but now that I don't play Box of Disaster, like they just one shot you and don't get punished for it.
Yep.
Whereas if you hit them for 80, you could return knockout and then judge path. But like without the box, I was just like, I wasn't teching for Goldango this weekend. My bad, free me.
The Gumilla brothers are definitely angry about that one, bro. They're calling for some respect on Golden Go.
No, they're calling for some respect, which is valid. I mean, Goldango did make it rain with a 1K finish this weekend. You know what I mean?
It did, bro. It did.
Put a little 1K in Jarek's pocket.
Yeah. Okay. What about another kind of weird deck, Block Lax? Is that a good matchup? Well, you can't even kill a Mimikyu, actually. That's definitely a terrible matchup.
No, so it's an auto tie.
Auto tie. Okay.
Like, because you play Squovit.
Oh, and so you can just infinitely put your hand in.
So if it's not the Pidgeot build, right? Which shout out Liam Halliburton, you know, but if it's not the Pidgeot build and they play the Radzard Fire Energy to deal with the Squovit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or they play like a way to attack into the Squovit, right? You just put Squovit down and you nest dash one card into your deck over and over and over again. And then, but I played against a Block Lax this weekend, and I started Squovit, and I attached 2 energies to it, and I bit a lot.
What does bite? What does it do? What does bite do?
It does 20 damage. It does 20 damage. My opponent didn't want to ID, which was completely fair, right? Which was completely fair. I offered the ID at the beginning of the game, okay? Because I didn't have a win con, he didn't have a win con. There was absolutely no way we win the game. It was going to be a tie anyway. But I took 5 prize cards with Squovit by the end of a 50-minute best of 1.
Wait. So, like, with another 10 minutes, would you have actually won by taking 6 prizes with Squovit?
Yep.
Yo.
I would have won. I would have won if I had another 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, but like doing 20 damage a turn, what? They have to
It's not great. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not fantastic, right?
No.
But I don't know why it took over. Like I could have done a lot different things, right? Like I could have probably attacked with Arc. I could have probably done all that. But the problem is like if I would have done all that, then like at the end of the game, like he just could have thrown Mimikyu up in the same way, just thrown Mimikyu up and then drawn past, and we would have gone to time anyway, right? So like just I literally just bit the whole game, and we eventually went into time, and there was absolutely neither of us could do. Apparently, he played Radzard, and I didn't know. But he played Radzard, but he prized Radzard, Peonia, and Fire Energy.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like, I was so confused why I didn't want to ID, right? And I was like, because I don't want to sit here for the next 50 minutes if there's no win con, right? And he just was like looking at me super like evil. And it was the funniest game I think of Pokemon I've ever played because it was just attach, bite, nest dash, attach, bite, nest dash over and over and over again.
Wait, but if he didn't prize his Radzard, he actually would have
lost.
You would have lost.
Yeah.
You would have lost.
Yeah. I should have just not taken prizes.
Yeah,
but,
that was,
like,
yeah.
But like I don't know, like because he offered the ID mid-round, and so I thought that like whatever win con he thought he had, I must have gotten rid of it, right? So at that point, so I'm just gonna keep biting. I'm like, it's just like whatever at this point, right?
Yeah, that's true. When he asked ID, he has no win con. So yeah, that makes sense.
So it's like, so I'm assuming that like as soon as he like actually checked his prizes, got a ball search card or whatever to check his prizes, he saw that Radzard Fire Energy Peonia was prized, and he was like, ID?
Okay, that makes sense.
But we ended up tying anyway. So the kid was a super nice kid though.
That's good. Your list had Jirachi and no Manaphy, right? What's the logic behind no Manaphy? You're just not scared of Greninja, or?
Well, most of your let me pull up this is not the Charlotte list. So most of the time, your Pokemon, up until I lost to Vidi, not once did I get Greninja because there's not really like an opportune time to Greninja an Arc player. Right? I mean, like, you can Greninja, if you're playing Tina, right? You can Greninja the Arc player because at that point you're able to just swing, and that like I don't have a one-shot option on your Tina, so like you're able to take 4 off of that one ninja play, which is correct. But like against other matchups like Sablezard, obviously Sablezard doesn't play Greninja, right? And the Turbo Lost Box variant of the deck already just has a bad matchup into Arceus because if you don't get turn 1 knock on Arc V, then from that point, nothing in your deck does enough damage to remove Arceus from the board. You know, and that's like the whole Lost Box matchup in general, other than Tina, is like these guys are big and your guys don't do enough, right? So Sharon's Care, pick up, scoop, throw another arc in the active. You know, I feel very confident into Lost Box matchups. I hit 4 across the weekend and I only lost to the Tina player, which is like fair. You know what I mean? Like I would rather take my loss there than like a Turbo Lost Box or a Sablezard. But I don't even think if Sablezard plays the moon, it's favorable because the whole point and like what made the matchup like slightly scary was the fact that all of them are one prizers, right? And so you have to take 6 turns. And if they can get your arcs within Devo TM range, right? Like if they can get your arcs within Devo TM range, which is hard, right? Don't get me wrong, it's difficult. But if they can do that, then they put you in a position where they can Devo for 4, right? And that feels really bad. Because they're never Devo TM in a Gigas ever. That guy has 240 HP. But like that's what made the matchup kind of scary because they could like smack with Radzard into an arc, and then like if you don't hit Sharon's Care, they could like boss the other one and smack into it with Radzard and then Devo TM. Yeah, because you couldn't at that point take any like you could take one arc off the board, but then you're still left in a crammable arc, which feels bad. But overall, I think the matchup is like super favored. I beat 2 Sablezards over the weekend in the Turbo Lost Box as well.
So then moving forwards, I mean, with this Roaring Moon deck being popular, is there any solution for that or just no solution for the Roaring Moon matchup?
I don't really know what the solution for the Roaring Moon matchup is. I have tried to figure it out, but I cannot put my finger on it. The closest thing I can find is a Scyther. There's a grass Scyther, right? But hear me out. Hear me out. There's a grass Scyther that takes 1 grass energy and it does 20 damage, right? But it charges up a grass energy to one of your bench Pokemon. So you could go in and swing into a moon once they frenzy gouging, and then you kill that and then charge up a bench one. But like other than that, I think it's just kind of copium. So we just kind of move past it.
Right.
I don't really want to put a 70 HP Scyther in my deck. But
No, that sounds terrible. That sounds terrible.
I think we just sack it and put Path down.
Right, okay. So moving forwards, is this version without the Zacian the better version, or would you go back to your Portland list for all the Arc enjoyers out there? If you want to play Arc to a League Cup or a regional, well, what do you recommend?
I think Zacian is copium, and I think the card sucks.
Okay.
But Makani and Nathan will die on the hill that it is one of the best cards in the deck. I think it's pretty bad. I did not miss it once. There were times that I didn't hit turn 1 energy, but I still needed to put Path down, and I still won those games. So overall, I feel like I didn't miss it at all. Now, if you go to your local League Cup and you look around the room and there's 15 Urshifu there, first thing I would do is suggest playing Mew. All right, that's like the first thing I would do is like taking your deck box. No, not a Mew, switching your deck to Mew.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, but if you insist on playing Arceus, switch the energies back to Psychics and play the Zacian. But if there's not an absolute metric load of Urshifu there, do not play the Zacian. It feels really bad. I would much rather have that extra energy every time of the day.
Okay, cool. Are there any other highlights of the deck? Any cool, weird things you pulled off? Any, I don't know, 5 prize Skwovet stories? Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up here?
I think that the 2 most important things from this event were the 5 prize Skwovet story, and then me using whatever the Vstar is on Gigas.
Yeah. I actually have no idea.
It's called Star Guardian.
Star Guardian for the win, baby.
Yeah, and so like those were the 2 most important things for the weekend. It's a deck. If you want to play it. It doesn't take, the ceiling is not that high. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
But like it's a fun intro deck for people that want to, you know, obviously it can do well at events. I mean, me and Connie have proved that pretty comfortably now. So
absolutely.
Give it a try. I mean, just if you do figure out a way to beat Roaring Moon, please hit my DMs on Twitter. I would really like to hear about how you beat Roaring Moon. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, any shout outs you want to give before we wrap it up then, Joe?
I'd like to shout out the kitchen. That's my team that I made. Those are the boys. They're pretty cool. Unfortunately, none of them played ArcGigas other than Connie and Nathan, which sad, but yeah, I think that's about it. Shout out Brian, my roommate, the one that takes me to events and takes care of me. And then I don't know. Shout out Arceus Vstar.